This is Rigid Serpent. Octagon, do you read me?
You're coming in loud and clear, Serpent.
Tell me what I'm doing here again.
You need to infiltrate the military base known as Shadow Noah. We have to obtain photographic evidence of the quadrupedal tank known as Plastic Cog for the Saved as Draft podcast.
Huh? Why would a tank be made of plastic?
It's actually made from a bioorganic polymer that utilizes nanomachines to achieve a near-perfect molecular structure.
Why do the terrorists want it?
Because their leader, Handgun Leopard, wants to use it to launch a nuke.
All right. I'm ready to commence the mission.
Wait! I haven't told you about Devin!
Who is Devin?
Devin is an international arms dealer who travels with his pet octopus.
That doesn't make any sense. Who the hell comes up with this stuff?
Serpent, your heart rate is too high. Use the action button to calm yourself down.
The action button? What are you talking about, Octagon?
It's on your controller.
There are no controllers on the battlefield.
And cut. Whew, that was magnificent. Absolutely brilliant.
Really? Because from where I was sitting, it didn't make any sense.
It's fine. Someone will get it. Hopefully.
Whatever. I'm going to have a smoke.
Wait. Can you at least say the name of the show?
I don't give a damn about your podcast.
Close enough. Welcome, everybody, to the Saved as Draft podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the podcast where I do weird voices and then we talk about writing and stuff. In all seriousness, I've got a great show planned for you all today. Not only are we shouting out some amazing new stories, but I've also got our first ever interview to share with you. That's right, the Saved as Draft podcast is now welcoming guests to talk about their creative endeavors. This week, I'll be joined shortly by my friend of over 20 years, James Nethery. James and I sat down earlier this week to discuss his career as an animator and to talk about the series we're currently creating together called The Chronicles of Clenchport. Before we get into that, though, some quick housekeeping. I wanted to once again thank everyone who's been participating in the Spring Novel Writing Marathon. While I am behind on my goal, I've been super proud to see folks who are already approaching their word count, or in some cases, have surpassed it. I also want to shout out Mina Howell for her weekly microfiction March prompts. I've done the last couple and I really enjoyed them. Mina also launched her own podcast recently called the Penny Dreadfuls Podcast, so if you haven't subscribed, check out what she's doing over on her Substack. I'll leave a link to her podcast in the show notes. And last but not least, before we get into this week's featured stories, I wanted to take a second to let everyone know that my dear friend and fellow writer, Wild Nebula, or Wild K Nebula in some cases, just launched pre-orders for her upcoming book, 3 Shades of the Heart. The book stars Kimiko Ishioka, a high school teen who finds herself banished to Arizona to live with her grandmother after her life is ripped out from under her in mere seconds due to a recent loss and an unfair fight between her and her father. It's not long before Kimmy makes friends and enemies alike. But as she tries to navigate high school drama, rejection, and grief, she soon finds herself in a heated love triangle between herself and 2 brothers, which will force her to evolve into something more than the little girl she was when she first arrived in Arizona. Wild Nebula's been releasing snippets of the book on Substack, and I've had the pleasure of reading some of it. Her writing is packed with emotion and full of absolutely superb imagery. She's also incredibly good at ensuring the pacing of each scene stays consistent, so once you start reading, you will not want to put it down. I had to give Nebula a shout out on the podcast here because she was one of the first writers that I met when I decided to kind of put myself back out there on the internet and try to build an audience for my work after years of being a ghostwriter. Not only that, but she also introduced me to audio mazes, which I know some of you have been looking into as well. And my experience with audio mazes so far as a writer has been absolutely incredible. So, giving her book a shout out on the podcast was the least that I could do. Pre-orders for the Kindle version of 3 Shades of the Heart are open now, and paperback versions will be open for pre-order in the coming weeks. Find a link to get your copy in the show notes. And with that, let's get into this episode's story shoutouts. So this week we'll do our story shoutouts, and then we'll get right into my interview with James Nethery, who's a lifelong friend and an incredibly talented animator. The interview segment will be replacing this week on Substack, as well as my soapbox rant sections, but that's just so the episode doesn't run incredibly long. These segments will be back next week, or any week where we're not doing interviews going forward. For this segment, as you may know, every week I open a thread in my subscriber chat where I allow people to drop links to their latest stories, and I select 5 at random to talk about on the podcast here. So as always, look out for the Saved as Draft self-promo thread every Tuesday in my subscriber chat on Substack. Our first shoutout this week is V Walker's 300 subs giveaway. If you haven't subscribed to V Walker for her insanely good poetry, now's your chance. To celebrate 300 subscribers, V is hosting a gift card giveaway with multiple ways to enter. Not only that, but you can learn more about her other newsletter, a massive poetry sale starting soon, and you can even check out her customized poetry commissions for an incredibly reasonable price. I actually commissioned a poem from V for my girlfriend Sarah, and it turned out incredibly amazing. So much so that I actually framed it, and I still have yet to hang it up. I just gotta find the perfect spot. But man, it turned out good. So check the show notes to see what V is doing to celebrate this amazing milestone. And once again, if you haven't checked out her poetry, I'm letting you know now it's gonna change your life, and probably shatter your heart. But don't worry about that. The point is, you should check out her work. She's one of the best poets I've ever read, hands down. Our second shout out this week is The End of the Line by Taro Bahar. This story stars a woman named Lucy who wakes up on a train only to find that her things are missing and she doesn't remember how she got there. I don't want to spoil the story, but as you can imagine from the title, this is no ordinary train. The story plays out primarily through a conversation between Lucy and the conductor, and it's here where the dialogue really shines. Taro's ability to develop deep and nuanced backstory through a relatively short conversation is extremely impressive. I felt like I had known Lucy my entire life by the end of the story, but it never felt like the dialogue was, dumping exposition on the reader either. It's just a very emotional, very profound, very well-written story, and I really enjoyed every aspect of it. Next up is The Ballad of the Last Forest by Sumya Rai. I could be wrong, but this might be our first poem I've had on the podcast. In any case, this poem's subtitle says that it is Laments from a Dying World, which really sets the stage for a beautiful and melancholic piece of writing. The imagery throughout the poem is extremely good. You have descriptions like mists veil the sapphire sky. And I really love how the poem achieves this painful sense of longing, but never quite tells you what led to this moment. It drops some hints toward the end, such as another line that reads, "He knows why the cathedrals wailed." But ultimately, the piece asks you to be an observer of something both beautiful and painful in equal measure. If you enjoy poetry, definitely give it a read. The sense of atmosphere and emotion is really strong, and it carries that immersion all the way through the piece. Next up, we have Eclipse by Rachel Tribble. This piece is very short, but it grabs your attention, and it'll leave you wondering what's going to happen next by the end. In a very short amount of time, we get a glimpse of some powerful, almost unknowable character that is awakened from a long slumber. Between the ethereal and vivid descriptions, the story really imparts a heavy atmosphere that seems to be setting the stage for something much larger. Even the subtitle of the story, The Beginning, hints at this being the beginning of something much bigger. Knowing Rachel's penchant for telling epic tales, I have to imagine this story will eventually tie into her larger universe and series that she's writing on her Substack. And I, for one, will be checking out those news stories as soon as possible. In the meantime, give this one a read, but don't blame me when it gets stuck in your head as you ponder the possibilities of what's going to happen next. Our final shoutout this week is Phantom Pain by Lynette Ng. I discovered Lynette's Substack when I first joined, and her story deeply resonated with me. Lynette chronicles her journey in her work after she experienced heart failure and needed a transplant at a young age. Despite this, she continues to push forward through the pain and the healing. And in this piece, she shares with us her struggles as she tries to sleep through bouts of pain related to her procedure and her pacemaker. The healing process is long, and it's a bumpy road. Lynette's desire for rest and for a future where she's not in pain left me borderline in tears myself by the end. The way she communicates the depths of her emotion is astounding. Her writing invites the reader into the deepest parts of her soul, and the vulnerability on display here is nothing short of incredible. Lynette's story and her writing inspire me in equal measure. Her strength and her resolve are not only commendable, but they come through in her work in ways that defy mere words on a page. I'm incredibly grateful that one of her stories was selected for this week's episode because I know we're all struggling in today's world. Life is hard, and we're all fighting our own battles. But Lynette's strength inspires me to keep going, and I think it could inspire others as well. So be sure to subscribe to her Substack and check out this story. It's a piece that will change your perspective as it captivates you with its excellent writing. And that's it for this week's shoutouts. Remember to drop your links into my weekly Saved as Draft self-promo thread every Tuesday for a chance to be featured in a future episode of the show. And now, without further ado, let's get into our interview with James Nethery. As I mentioned, I'm replacing my top 3 stories section in the soapbox rant this week with our first ever interview. James and I recorded this earlier this week, and as my friend of over 20 years, it was exciting to kind of go through that whole journey with him and to be able to share it with all of you as he talks about his career as an animator, as well as the project that we're working on, which is an animated horror comedy series called The Chronicles of Clenchport. I published an article about the series yesterday if you'd like to learn more, including how James and I met in that article. And now I'll turn the show over to past me for the interview with James Nethery. All right, and everybody, I'd like to welcome to the Saved as Draft podcast, our first interview ever. Today we'll be sitting down with James Nethery, a friend of mine for over 20 years, who works as a 2D animator. James, say hello.
My name is James. I'm a 2D animator. I live in Atlanta right now. I know Bradley from way back. We both lived in Orlando quite a few years ago. So, I'm an animator and I do all sorts of animated things.
Cool, awesome. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
So, to kick us off here, why don't you tell us a bit about what inspired you to become an animator and give us a few highlights from your career so far?
Yeah, for sure. So my dad was an animator for Disney. So I kind of grew up around animation. Um, Plus I was able to go to like the parks all the time and get inspired that way. And yeah, I think I was always kind of interested in animation, and then kind of as I got into my teenage years, I started like taking it a little more seriously, like what I want to do, And I think it was after seeing The Incredibles is when I really decided that I really wanted to be an animator and started like researching it for myself. That was like 2004 or something crazy like that. So yeah, and then I went to school for it. I did an online program called Animation Mentor, which was set up by some Pixar guys. Um, I did that for about a year and a half. Um, and then yeah, I after kind of a couple of years of kind of waiting around to find work, I kind of got into like doing the whole freelance thing. That's where I met up with some of my long-term clients, which we can probably talk about in a little bit. Actually, I'll just mention them now, like Lowbrow Studios, who I worked with on like Cyanide and Happiness. That was like my first big freelance gig. So I was able to kind of build up my demo reel working on that stuff, and then I finally made the move to Atlanta because I took a test for a show called Archer, which is or was on FX. I think the last season aired last year. So I worked on season 7 of Archer. That moved me up to Atlanta, where I worked on all sorts of animation, both locally and for other companies, kind of like remotely. I was working remote long before the pandemic hit, so I was actually kind of prepared for that whole thing. And yeah, in the meantime, it's like with Bradley, we were all kind of make. I was kind of making stuff with Bradley. This is like over like 15 years. You know, Bradley and I made a bunch of cartoons in like high school and college and stuff like that, just amateur stuff. And it's interesting how it's now kind of like circled into like doing it like professionally. So yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, and I can speak a little bit to some of the projects we've done over the years as well. I just published an article today, so by the time this airs, it'll be a day from now. But I just published an article about our series that we're doing, the Chronicles of Clenchport, which we'll get into that as the interview goes on. But as part of that article, I kind of talked about how you and I met way back in the day as volunteers at the Science Center.
Yes.
I'm sure leading up to this segment of the podcast, I'll go into a little detail there for context. But yeah, no, I mean it's been awesome watching you grow as an animator over the years. I think both of us, it's pretty cool to be friends with somebody this long who's creative because it really lets you see how they've evolved and kind of honed their craft over the years.
No, yeah, totally, totally.
And so that's been really exciting to see. Like I've seen you grow exponentially as an artist, as an animator, and obviously as a voice actor as well. I mean, you definitely have done a
Yeah,
lot of voices over the years too.
for sure, man. Yeah, and it's like you've been doing like writing for a long time too. It's like I remember you're writing and doing like stuff in high school, doing all these cool stories and stuff like that. And it's like you made it into a career, and that's awesome.
Yeah, no,
So
it really is
yeah,
great. I'm extremely I think the young versions of ourselves would be very proud of how far we've come.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Cool, cool. Yeah, so speaking of all the projects that we've done over the years, my second question for you here today is, and I'm sure I already know the answer to this, but what is the worst project that you think we did as far as animation goes? Like, what is the one thing you're hoping that never sees the light of day?
Virtue games. Mashu Pasukaru.
So why don't you tell the audience, and I'll add my 2 cents, but why don't you tell
Yeah.
the audience what was it that made Virtua Games so bad when you look back on it?
Well, I was trying to kind of like imitate the whole anime thing. This is like even like pre-college days, I think. I was just like a high school student. So we recorded this or I think I can't remember who wrote it. It was one of us.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it was just kind of like doing like an anime video game type thing where it's like basically kind of a ripoff of the Matrix, but with anime characters. Where it's like they go into this video game and they fight like other teams. I had this whole idea like written out in my head, like for how this whole world worked, but we weren't exactly able to execute it very well with the tools that we had at that time. So it came out very, very cheesy. And I just remember going online and like looking up just like Japanese names. And yeah, it was like Mashu Pasukaru, and I can't even remember the other names. It was really stupid and cheesy, edgy 15-year-old type of thing.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. I would say
Yeah.
for any anime fans that are listening, it was I mean obviously it's nowhere near as good, but it was kind of like Sword Art Online in the sense that it was like a like video game that you go into like virtual world type thing. The Matrix also I think was a fair comparison.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, there's not a whole lot much else to add to it beyond what you said, but I think yeah, that one's probably the worst one, and for the reasons you said, it was us trying to play into anime tropes of the time, do something that was super action packed and
Hmm.
edgy as you said, and because we were 15, 16 at the time. It was about as edgy as you would expect from a kid that age. So so yeah, I think I would agree with you. A
Yeah.
lot
It,
a lot
it
of
was
the
definitely it was ambitious. It was like 10 minutes long or something like that. So
right, right. Yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean it was definitely something. Thinking back on all of our old projects, which I'm sure they're somewhere, but they've been kind of lost to time. Clenchport's really
Hmm.
like the first kind of full scale professional sort of project that we've really gotten into together. I know over the years you and I have definitely tried to start a few projects and series and
Oh
stuff, but
yeah.
I think Clenchport's definitely the one that's gotten the farthest, and obviously is still making progress, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we had like we started like an animation company last year, you or like a couple years ago, you and me, that kind of unfortunately kind of fell apart due to some behind the scenes things that I won't go into.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had some cool ideas, and I actually don't think Clenchport came out of that. I think Clenchport was post Raging Viking days. Um, but Raging Viking, we had a ton of cool ideas as well that we were developing that I hope to want to go back to someday.
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, moving on to my next question here. Speaking of Clenchport and like our current
mhm.
projects here, what aspects, in your opinion, of the Chronicles of Clenchport do you think make it unique or different to other animated series that are out in the world right now?
I think the kind of the animated horror aspect, Lovecraftian horror almost like kind of makes it like unique. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot of like supernatural stuff going on, but it's like there's not a whole lot of like Lovecraftian Silent Hill type of comedy animation. So I think that's the biggest thing that kind of makes it stand out, in my opinion. You
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. Yeah, that's, I mean, if someone were to ask me the same question, I think I would agree with you. We're really leaning into the, and anybody who reads my stuff on Substack knows that my horror is like very Lovecraftian, very cosmic horror.
Cosmic
And
horror. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
and that's coming through pretty significantly in the world of Clenchport, as well as the town's history and so on and so forth. So I would absolutely agree with you there, that that's kind of what makes it unique, and hopefully that's what makes people interested in it. So far, we've done a little bit of promotion here and there.
Hmm.
We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, but we have some social channels set up, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I just published the first article in a new series on Substack, where every couple of weeks I'm going to be sharing more information about the series and its characters, and as we're able to kind of share some behind the scenes stuff. So, um, but yeah, Lovecraftian horror and comedy. I can't really think of many examples, if any, that's been done before. So
Yeah, yeah.
cool. All right, so flipping back over to your kind of career and your professional life,
Hmm.
here's a question for you that I'd be curious to know the answer. If you could have lunch with any animator, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, this is a very tough question. So the Disney guy in me would definitely go for like any of the Disney of the Nine Old Men. So like Milt Kahl or Frank Thomas or Ollie Johnston, kind of those classic Disney animators, from like the night they were there from like the 1930s all the way up into like almost like late 70s, early 80s, and they kind of passed on their knowledge to like the younger group of animators at Disney and allowed them to get like into another renaissance, in animation. Like animation in the 70s and 80s had kind of like gone through like a downturn. Kind of similar to what we're experiencing now in the animation industry. But eventually Disney was able to kind of get back up and running with uh with the animators who've been working under these guys, as trainees. So I think if I were to have lunch with anybody, it would probably be one of those guys, just to gain any sort of nuggets of wisdom, on how to move forward as an animator.
Absolutely. No, that's a great answer. I knew you would have someone in mind or several people, as you
Yeah,
said. Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. Appreciate that.
yeah. No, for that sort of question, it's like I have a whole list of people I would totally have lunch with. So
Yeah, maybe in this scenario we can call it a group lunch, right?
absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So let's see here. Next question. What is your favorite animation project that you've ever worked on? And this can be professional,
Hmm.
or it can be one of the ones that you and I have done. Whatever's your favorite.
Clenchport. I mean, Clenchport is definitely I think that would definitely be my favorite project. But other than that, I think Cyanide and Happiness
Okay.
is probably my probably yeah, I think it's like I really miss working with those guys and being back in those days with like that sort of humor, that sort of silly humor is what I really like, and it's like very much my sense of humor.
Yeah. No, yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was able to do animation and eventually my first directing gigs with them. So I definitely owe those guys a lot. And yeah, I think that was definitely my favorite animation experience. And I would totally work with them again if the opportunity arose. So,
Very cool. Very cool. Great
mhm.
answers. And I'm only biased on one of them. Um,
Yeah.
okay, awesome. So, next up, who is your favorite character in the Chronicles of Clenchport, and why would you pick that particular character?
Well, I'm gonna be biased and say Troll Slayer because he's the character who's kind of been with us the longest.
Sure.
Um, Other than him, I gotta say it's like I really like Armitage.
Hmm.
I think he's a really interesting character. His backstory is really cool. And I just love his voice. I can't wait to animate him. I've been working on some animatics with like the new voice you gave him, Bradley. It's
Uh-huh.
really funny. It's really yeah, really good. Yeah, no, I think besides Troll Slayer, Armitage would be my favorite. And Armitage actually goes kind of way back also. We had like a mad scientist character. Um, he kind of evolved from. So
That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I remember the mad scientist character, his name way back in the day, the one who would eventually become Dr. Armitage in Chronicles of Clenchport.
Hmm.
The one we had back in the day was Dr. Ian Sane, right?
Ian Sane. Yep. Then he became Dr. Lovecraft, and then he
Yep,
became Dr. Armitage.
that's right. Yep,
So
yep. And
yeah.
I still remember too. This is a fun little anecdote for anybody listening here. I'm sure you remember this too, James.
Hmm.
When when we first came up with the idea for the mad scientist character kind of running his own shop, sort of storyline, it was we were I think in Florida at the time, and we were at a strip mall, and there was across the parking lot there was a sign that said "Eye Doctor," but the Y was like partially out, so it looked like it said
Yeah.
"Evil Doctor,"
Yes, I
like it was
remember that.
advertising an evil doctor store.
Oh my goodness, I do remember that.
That's
Wow.
yeah, that's kind of where I remember the idea first starting. It's like, wait, let's think about
Yeah.
this. An evil doctor who's running like his own little shop, was selling who knows what, right? And so that's kind
Yep.
of what eventually led to Armitage, I would say.
Yeah, and Toby was in that original
That's
group of
true.
shorts as well.
That's true. Yeah, Toby is
Yeah.
Dr. Armitage's
Assistant.
faithful assistant
Yeah.
in Chronicles of Clenchport. That's all I'll say for now. We're gonna keep the
Yeah.
details close to the chest until we're ready to share more there. But yeah, so Dr. Armitage, Toby, and Troll Slayer, fun fact for everyone listening, they are all voiced using different voices by me. And then James, you voice I know at least two characters in the series. I'm probably
Yeah.
forgetting others. And then of course we have some other voice actors and actresses and more that will come as time goes on. So yeah, no, that's a good answer to that one though. So
Hmm.
my next question for you is, what advice would you give to someone who's hoping to start a career as an animator?
It's a good question. Uh, Keep working on your drawing, always keep that sketchbook with you. Research the different schools, is like you don't always have to pick the big 4-year schools. There are some good online options these days that are less expensive. Not saying that a 4-year school is the wrong path, but it's not the only path. And I would say just keep networking. Put your stuff up online. Even if you don't think it's up to professional quality. Um, it's like put it up online for feedback, you know. The only way to get your work out there is to put it out there yourself, you know. So yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice.
Cool, thank you.
Hmm.
So, given time here, I think I'm just going to skip past a couple of questions because I think we've
Yeah,
covered
yeah.
some of this stuff already that I was going to
Hmm.
ask. Um, yeah, I guess the last thing that I kind of just want to, get your thoughts on is what because Clenchport, and I described this in the article, Clenchport is what I'm referring to as a transmedia universe, meaning that it exists
Hmm.
across different forms of media, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's going to be the animated series first and foremost, but it's also
Hmm.
got short stories that I've written and published on Substack that are set in kind of parallel universes around Clenchport, which is a big part of the overall lore. And then we obviously have the podcast, the narrative
Yeah.
podcast that's coming out hopefully soon here, that we're working on. So. Um, Out of all the different kind of aspects of Clenchport as a kind of transmedia universe,
Hmm.
um, what specific part of it are you most excited about? Like, obviously, you're probably most excited about the animated series, but what do you think is going to be the thing that makes people a fan? Is it going to be the pilot episode? Is it going to be one of the
Mm.
kind of mini shorts that we're working on, or something else entirely? What do you think is going to be that moment when somebody says, "Yeah, I need to be a fan of this"?
Okay. I would say probably. Oh man, even that's a tough question. Probably like the pilot, or no, the shorts would
The
probably
shorts?
be the one that would like really hook people, and the podcast. I think
Yeah.
those would be the two things that would really hook people in. And I'm super excited for both of those. It's like I did a couple voices for the podcast. That was a lot of fun to record.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited for
So,
the podcast. Hopefully that'll be out soon. We're currently
yeah.
working. Yeah, we're currently working on finalizing the audio and getting it all edited and put together. And then those once that's done, we'll have hopefully the first episode launching soon here.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about the whole like what you call it, like a transmedia universe.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like hell, it's like in a few years maybe we're gonna be putting out like a game or something like that. That'd be freaking sick.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. That's the goal is to
Yeah.
like have Clenchport exist across different mediums. Yep. So
Yeah. It's like I could see Clenchport becoming like a game or like a web comic,
yep.
to like doing like a more like extended lore. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, and of course your stories as well, your short stories. So,
Yep. Yep. No. Absolutely.
mhm.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we've got time for today. But James, thank you so much for joining me on the Saved as Draft podcast here, and for being our first ever interview. I know people are going to love hearing, the story behind the story when it comes to Clenchport, and hopefully we'll have more than a few animators listening who can, learn a bit about the industry and how they can get involved if they so choose.
Yep, thank you.
I can attest, Sir Voidy's the best. He wouldn't dare play it close to the vest. He's here to share, from here into there, the writers and words of which he does care.
Oh, hey, Voidy. Didn't see you there. Don't play stupid with me. I'm not. I literally didn't see you. Oh, so just because I'm a void that devours light, suddenly I don't exist? That's not what I meant. Listen, can we not do this? It's been a really long week. I just want to know why you're trying to cut me out of my own show. Your show? You have a segment on my show, Voidy. I can tell you're cranky because you've had a long week. Come here. Let me give you a hug. No, wait. It's too late. We're doing this. Not again. Oh, okay. Well, that's my cardio for the day. Oh, you wouldn't believe how many calories you burn crawling your way out of an infinite void. Well, in terms of next week on Substack, I'm hoping once again to make some progress towards starting my Devine series. And I know everybody's been waiting, and I promise we'll get it started soon. And due to a combination of setbacks, the Sprino Rima challenge is being reduced in scope as well. Hazel posted about it on the publication, but suffice to say, we're just not able to do as many events as we wanted to over the course of the challenge. That being said, we're still going to honor the cash prizes at the end, so winners will be announced for each of the 3 tiers once the challenge concludes. This coming week, I'm also hoping to write and publish my article on self-promotion and marketing yourself as a writer. It's one of those things that has a stigma attached to it, but you gotta tell people about your work, so there's a balance to strike there, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. And I really hope everyone enjoyed the interview this week. Please let me know in the comments how you liked it, and if you'd like me to interview other writers or creatives in the future. And that's all I've got for this week, folks. I really hope next week is better for all of us, but in the meantime, I'm wishing you all a safe and productive week. This is Bradley Ramsey, signing off. Serpent, it's me. I've decoded the transmission.
All right. And what does it say?
It looks like the terrorist leader is your brother!
Huh? How's that possible? Hello, brother.